What's up, y'all? It's your boy, the non-lawyer, coming back at you with another video. So on October 13th, 2022, the judge actually put in a recent judgment against Tasha K. Against Tasha K for Cardi B. And I never really got a chance to, give you guys my whole 2 cents about that. I've watched other people's channel and I've watched what their commentary on it. And I wanted to put some commentary on this, but I was really busy. I had a lot of personal stuff going on, and I just really couldn't get around to it. Then I found myself trying to get as much information as I could, and I found that I was coming up with too much information. And then the video that I originally wanted to do was just kind of all over the place. So I just want to just have this focus and really talk about why Tasha K can take this court order and wipe her ass with it, right? And I say that for a lot of reasons, but let me just go ahead and read the actual judgment so we can get into this, right? So the judgment basically says plaintiff motion for supersedes bond pursuant to Rule 62 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure is hereby granted when and if the defendant posts a bond in the amount of $3.8 million, which guarantees unconditionally to pay said amount in satisfaction of the judgment awarded by the court to the plaintiff. Then and in that event, the court also grants the defendant motion to stay, right? So we've been talking about this for a long time now. Now, when Cardi B actually filed her motion to start taking shit from Tasha K responded, and basically Tasha K was just trying to get the court to stop Cardi B. And we've already discussed this. I've got a video on this. I'll post a link to that video above. But I'm just going to summarize. Everybody and a mama know that you can't stay a civil judgment against you unless you put some money up. Now, we get it. She's trying to stay that judgment because she wants a chance to appeal. And I'm not really sure what's going on with that appeal because as we've seen in the last video, that appeal was dismissed. And I never understood why that appeal was dismissed. And I, didn't really have a chance to, do any research. Typically, the appellate courts are different from any other courts. It's hard to get their judgment. So maybe they gave a reason on why the judgment was, why the case was dismissed. But as I can remember, it was dismissed due to lack of jurisdiction. But we don't know specifically why. Did they file in the wrong courtroom? Did they file the case too soon? We don't know why it was dismissed. And, maybe I'll spend some time to look into why it was dismissed. But it was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. So there is a possibility that Tasha K can resubmit that once the court either has jurisdiction or maybe she just submitted it to the wrong court. I don't know what the deal is because I haven't really seen the details. All I know is that there's this rumor that it's been dismissed. If you guys know, post a comment below. Let us know why that case was dismissed, right? But otherwise, this goes on. The defendant's motion to stay is denied. Further, the court notes the defendant have asked for a hearing on the issue as to whether there should be a bond at all, and if so, whether the amount of the bond should be less than the judgment issued in this case. Then it goes on. The court is unaware of the rule upon which the defendant relies in arguing that they are entitled to a hearing. The court grants the defendants the right to supplement their pleadings with authority as to why they are entitled to a hearing, and in any event to provide through their pleadings evidence which would justify a bond in the amount less than the full amount of the judgment. If such evidence is provided through the supplementation of the pleadings, in the court will re-examine whether the amount of the bond as set herein should be modified, ordered by the Judge William M. Ray II. Now, this part confuses me, right? This part kind of confuses me because she has an attorney, right? And I'm not sure who that attorney is at that point. I'm just going to assume it's Olga. If it's not Olga at this point, comments below. But I'm confused as to why Olga actually is trying to do this because this shit just really doesn't make any sense. So maybe, and you guys have seen my video. If not, again, I'll try to post a link above. Maybe there's some case law or some exception to the rule that you have to post a bond in order to stay a judgment. Maybe there's some exception out there for something like that. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that exception. And I don't know of any case law, right, that's going to allow you to uh, pause a judgment against you or stay a judgment against you without posting the fucking bond. And to me, I'm asking two questions. Does Olga really truly, the first question, does Olga really and truly does not know and understand what a civil bond is? Maybe in criminal law, because from my understanding, that's what she actually practices. Maybe in criminal law, you can, get off without actually posting a bond. I haven't really read much on criminal law. Most of the stuff that I read on my channel has been civil law to this point. Not saying that I won't get to criminal law. It's just that I haven't had any juicy stories that required it. Besides R. Kelly. And even then, I actually did read some of the federal statutes for that. And a bond is, in most cases, uh, warranted, but sometimes I guess with criminal bonds you post a small percentage, like 10% of that bond or whatever. So I'm trying to figure out what the fuck Olga is doing, because to me it seems like she's trying to get around not posting this bond. So I'm asking myself, does she truly not know and understand this shit? Is she stupid? Right? I don't know. Right? And another reason, and the more likely reason, is that Olga is a criminal attorney, from my understanding, right? And I can go to a website, but I'm not going to do that right now. As I understand it, on her website, she clearly says she's a criminal attorney, whatever, right? And Olga's a criminal attorney, and maybe there's a situation where work has kind of like dried up, or maybe she's not getting clients, so she's doing this civil case. And she's doing this civil case, and I'm just going to imagine what's going on between her and Tasha K. And I would imagine that Tasha K is paying money for this shit, right? Otherwise, Olga wouldn't be here. So there could be a situation where Olga is not getting the work that she wants in the criminal realm, right? Because I could imagine in the criminal world, you probably end up working for the government. You probably end up representing people who can't afford to pay. So you're basically doing work for the government. You're getting a check because of that. And that money is not much compared to the amount of work that you're doing. But now, on the other hand, we have Tasha K. And Tasha K is willing to pay money. And on Olga's website, which I've heard, right? I've heard, lawyers come out and talk about how on her website, she's a criminal attorney. And some lawyers believe that if you work in one area in law, that you shouldn't flip flop and go to another area in law. I'm going to disagree with that, right? I'm going to disagree with that because law, like anything else, is just a job. It's just a fucking job. That's all it is. And some people can lift that up and they can tell you that it's more prestigious than any other job out there. I mean, of course, they're not out, digging ditches, so on and so forth. But for the most part, that's all bullshit, right? And I'm not trying to attack anybody, and I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just telling you like it is, right? I think the only thing about being a lawyer is that you belong to a special club, and that club basically has regulations, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's a job just like anything else. And I can see a situation where, well, let's talk about what I do for a living to make my bread. So I'm in information technology, right? A lot of people probably don't know that. That's what I do. That's how I make my bread. And I end up, from different parts of my career, working in specific niches in information technology. And over time, you go to school or you take some extra classes and you learn that specific niche and you become better and better and better at it, to the point where a lot of the work is just routine, and it doesn't take much effort for you to do the work because you've done the job 100 times before. right? So I get it. I get what some lawyers are saying is that you work in a specific area in law, you build up expertise, you wouldn't go and start doing something else in information technology. I wouldn't necessarily start doing something else if the particular niche I'm in, I've been doing it for a long time and I have expertise in it. I get it. But what people don't understand is that, sometimes work dries up, or sometimes you can't get the actual work in that specific niche. So you have to switch and you have to start doing something else. So basically, the way you do that, the best way to do that is to start getting training in the direction you want to go. And you get that training, you get practice, and then you put yourself out there, you start getting work. Now, when it comes down to law, I personally know a lot of lawyers that does a lot of shit. They don't do just one thing. They just don't say, okay, I'm only going to do bankruptcies and nothing else. Or I'm only going to do criminal litigation and nothing else. I actually knew a lawyer who I went to school with. This dude did some of everything. He did criminal law, he did bankruptcies, and he basically, did some civil, general civil stuff. But his bread and butter at the time was basically criminal law because he knew a lot of people, from the hood who were getting into trouble, and he can get a retainer of $20,000 and $50,000 in order to take their case. So that area of law was very lucrative for him at that point. But eventually, that shit dried up, and he didn't have the clientele who was basically paying that type of money anymore. What is that lawyer doing now? That motherfucker is doing real estate, right? So he's built up a lucrative real estate practice, and that's what he does now. So this dude has basically traverse different areas of law. So I can't really understand what people are saying when they're comparing being a lawyer to a doctor. And if you're a heart surgeon, if you're a foot surgeon, you wouldn't put your hands on someone's heart or so on and so forth. That's a bad comparison, in my own opinion. And again, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm not putting anything out there. Um, Even a foot surgeon can pivot and start doing heart surgery because he has the basic foundation of being a doctor first, right? And then you learn. Now, how much pivoting is that going to take? It would take a lot of pivoting because he would need to go and re-educate himself and need to be retrain himself in order to start doing that work. But I think the proper comparison is to say that you're a foot doctor and you're on the battlefield and this guy gets shot and he gets in some type of accident and he has his rod sticking out of his heart and you need to perform an emergency procedure to save this guy's life, right? You're not a heart surgeon, but you are a doctor, right? You know some general things about medicine, and this dude is about to die now, and there's no fucking body else around to get this post out of his heart. What do? Do you say, I'm a foot surgeon, I'm not going to attempt to help this guy and try to save his life? What do? Of course, you're going to call the paramedics, so on and so forth. But 9 times out of 10, any doctor is going to try to do something right then and there, unless they're afraid of being sued or something like that. Um, but I just disagree with that. So getting back to this, I'm going to guess that, or I'm going to imagine that Olga is a criminal attorney, and I'm going to believe that work is not as lucrative as she'd hoped it to be. And Tasha K, on the other hand, is paying a lot of fucking money to take her case. And I believe what's happening, one possible scenario is that Olga sat down with Tasha K and said, hey, look, Tasha, they have this rule called Rule 62. And Rule 62 says you have to put up some money for a bond in order for them to stop trying to collect while you go ahead and appeal this. And from what I've seen, from talking to my friends who are in the industry, uh, you're not going to get anywhere unless you post a bond. And Tasha, I can imagine Tasha K probably respond, or her response is probably, I don't give a fuck about all that. Just do what the fuck I told you to do. Type something up and see if we can stall this shit, or type something up to see if we can get this reduced. You do what, use your best logic or whatever you can in order to try to reduce this shit. I don't care about no fucking Rule 62, because this is how Tasha K is, you know what I mean? In my own personal opinion, allegedly, right? But you've seen her channels. I can imagine that she would do something like that. And Olga is probably in a situation where she's like, damn, I just told this bitch that the Rule 62 says you can't do it. And basically, from talking to all my friends who does civil, and I've actually talked to them, that this shit ain't gonna go nowhere, but fuck it. This motherfucker is paying. I'm just gonna go ahead and do what the fuck she want to do, right? So I can see where that's a realistic scenario. Of course, the alternative is just to say, okay, Olga is just a dumb motherfucker, because it doesn't take much effort to go to the government's website and pull up the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and look up the laws or the procedures on staying bond. Because I've already done that shit, and I have it in the video, which you can check out. I'll try to post it somewhere above. So it doesn't take much effort to do that, right? So I'm not sure why Olga is actually attempting to do this. Now, of course, another possibility out there is that there could be some case law that Olga has vaguely read, and maybe for whatever reason she didn't want to put that case law into that motion to say, hey, there are alternatives to staying the bond, so on and so forth. Here's a case law, and here's the reason we need to have a hearing so that you can stay this bond, right? Yeah. But otherwise, I'm not really understanding why she's doing this. You guys, you tell me, is Olga just stupid as fuck to be filing motions like this? Is she doing it because Tasha K told her to do it, and she's like, fuck it, Tasha K is paying, we're gonna do what Tasha K says? Or do you think there's some type of procedure out there that would allow you to get around posting a bond? Now, I do have another video on where I talk about how Tasha K can reduce this judgment against her, but it's not necessarily going to stay the actual bond that's going to be necessary in order to stay the judgment, right? So there's a video out there. I'll try to post it up above. But my old general sense of this is that Tasha K can actually wipe her ass with this court judgment. And I say that for a lot of reasons. Um, One of the main reasons, and I'm just going to get right to it, one of the main reasons is that we all know someone who is avoiding a judgment. But before I even get to him, let me just come back and talk about the video I did before this one, where we talked about how Tasha K was in Bamako, Mali, and the possibility of her having a bank account somewhere out there in Africa. We don't know if it's actually in Africa. She could have just been yanking our leg. We don't even know that she actually put money in Africa, right? I mean, we don't know. Someone actually posted on my channel, damn well Tasha K posted that video, and that video is real. We actually don't know, because you got a lot of hackers out there. And until Tasha K comes forward or is forced to answer to that video, we don't know that Tasha K actually put money into an African bank. But for fantasy's purpose, we're going to assume that she did. So let's pretend that she put money into an African bank. We know that she could transfer money back and forth to the United States, and she can have shell companies all over Europe, all over Africa, in order to hide money. That's no big deal. One thing we didn't consider is the possibility that Tasha K can actually use motherfucking Bitcoin to hide her assets. That's right. Tasha K can just use Bitcoin to hide her assets. And I think it won't necessarily become a problem until you get to the point where Tasha K wants to do big things or bigger things than what she's already done. Then it would be kind of a problem, and we'll get into why very shortly here. But for the most part, Tasha K can wipe her ass with this judgment. She can put her money in Bitcoin. She can use Bitcoin to transfer money back and forth, to her African bank account or to her European bank account. Let's not rule that out. I'm not saying that she has one, but she could have one. And she doesn't necessarily need Bitcoin to move money around from Africa to Europe and back to the United States. But it's a possibility. Bitcoin is probably going to be the better option because it's something that you can control. You can actually download your Bitcoin onto a small USB stick, and you can be walking around with fucking millions of dollars on a USB stick, and nobody would ever know. Now, of course, USB sticks and things of that nature, they can become corrupted, they can be damaged, so on and so forth. That's why you should always make a backup copy. But I'm just pointing out that Bitcoin is the most logical, practical way that Tasha K can hide her assets. Now, I think there has been talk on other channels of Cardi B coming after her house, and I think someone has actually found one of Tasha K's house, and they basically did a virtual tour, and I think the house was worth $330,000. Now, Tasha K will be in trouble if she has a lot of real estate all about the United States that Cardi B can seize. She's not going to be able to do anything about that at that point. Of course, until Cardi B finds them, she could always basically move them into a blind trust or something of that nature, right? But for the most part, if Cardi B finds the property and sees that the property has been moved into a blind trust, then we have a situation with fraudulent conveyance, which we've already talked about. But for the most part, we do know people who have avoided court judgments, massive court judgments, and that person is the game. The game, as you guys know, was sued by Priscilla Rainey, and I have a video about that. I'm not going to go into too much details about that. I'll try to post a link above. But he's been sued by Priscilla Rainey, and Priscilla has been trying to get this money ever since that happened, right? So basically, here's an article: Game accused of hiding earnings from Cameo app marijuana business as Priscilla Rainey pursues $7 million judgment. And again, another situation where somebody has a huge judgment against them, and in my own personal opinion, what they did, I think in the game situation, what he did was wrong, but the judgment is just outrageous. I think they just kind of, I hate to see outrageous judgments. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know why the judgment is so high. Maybe $1 million, maybe 800,000. This judgment is just outrageous. And then they basically kept him from actually appealing it. Again, I have a video. I'll post that video above. But this article basically goes on to say, Priscilla Rainey claims Game is diverting money to a new shell company as she attempts to seize money as he has made on the Cameo app. The woman who won $7 million judgment against rap star Game claims he continues to create shell companies to avoid paying her. Now, you guys know, after that judgment, the Game has basically flaunted his money. Let me see if I can find a pic for you guys. So after that judgment, the Game has actually been, I can't even say, there was a lot of pictures out there where he's sitting on stacks of cash after the judgment. I wish I can find it. But anyway, getting back to this article, Priscilla Rainey is attempting to seize earnings Game has made through the popular Cameo app. I don't even know what Cameo is. According to Rainey and her lawyers, the Game uses F12 associates to collect payments from Cameo, his company Trees by the Game, and his performances. Rainey insists Game, born Jason Taylor, made almost $20,000 between October 29th through January 28th, which Cameo transferred to F12 associates. Rainey is attempting to seize the company's bank account to help satisfy the enormous judgment the rap star owes. In addition to the two game's repeated evasive tactics before, during, and after the trial, Taylor has repeatedly fouled. I'm sorry. Taylor has repeatedly flouted his obligation to pay Rainey, her lawyer Francis Curiel told the court. The issue between Priscilla Rainey and the game started when she was a contestant on his short-lived reality show, She's Got Game. I'm just going to skip this because we already know the story. Um, but basically, this story goes on to talk about how the game is evading paying Priscilla Rainey. So we all know it can be done, right? So there's nothing in this court order against Tasha K that really has any teeth in it. It's just basically denying Tasha K's motion to stay the bond. Okay, no big deal. Tasha K is going to continue to hide money just like the fucking game did. And I think she's going to be smart about it because she's going to look and see what the fuck didn't work for game, and she's going to avoid those mistakes. But the reality of the situation is that people like the game can actually just say, hey, just pay me in Bitcoin, just pay me in motherfucking Bitcoin, and then once he's paid in Bitcoin, it's going to be easier for him to hide that money. And when it comes down to Tasha K, she can't. I don't see a situation where she can just tell Google or YouTube to pay in Bitcoin. But all I'm pointing out is that this judgment has absolutely no freaking teeth. There's nothing in it that's going to risk Tasha K going to jail. There's nothing in it that forces Tasha K to come to court. I think the only way to really get Tasha K to pay this money is there's a couple of ways. Number one, Tasha K just gets tired of trying to evade paying Cardi B, and she wants to continue to work on YouTube, so she's just gonna be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna pay it. Number two, they have to basically go after Tasha K's earnings from YouTube, and I can see a scenario where they're saying, Tasha K, hey, Google, you are doing business with Tasha K, and Tasha K owes this amount of money. We're going to try to get a court order for you to pay us any monies earned by Tasha K. I'm not sure that actually can be done, but it is something that I would try if I was in Cardi B's situation. But again, Cardi B is not desperate for the money. I don't even think Cardi B needs the fucking money. She's just doing this because she wants to basically punish Tasha K for testing her, as I've said before. And then the third and the most effective way to get Tasha K to fucking pay is to compel her to come to court. File a motion to compel Tasha K to come to court, bring her books, bring her records, and if she doesn't show up, arrest her. And if she does show up and she starts lying, arrest her, right? But they haven't done that for the game, so I'm thinking there's some reasons out there that they won't do it for Tasha K. That's it for this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Comments and questions below.